Good morning. As you can see, my name is Marius van Wyk. I'm the chairman in the Southern Cape, Mossel Bay specifically. The subject came to mind when we had a look at the audits that we were doing in the region, and we discovered that the same mistakes were made over and over again. And when the guys have to go back and fix in this industry, it costs you money. And working for the insurance, you have a very set parameter which with where you can make money. You can't afford to go back to the job because then you're not making money at all. So guys, this is very important. Listen carefully. Last week we touched on how the legislation works, how the insurance industry works, what betterment, or what is concerned as betterment. So if you lose your car and that's a Volkswagen, they're only going to give you back a Volkswagen. So they're only going to replace like for like, and exactly goes the same for the geyser side of it. If you have 150 litre, they're only going to give you 150 litre. They're not going to upgrade your roof in the meantime and everything, etc. that goes with that. But obviously, we have to look at safety issues. Critical safety issues are of concern, and they are non-negotiable. It doesn't help just putting them on as a non-compliant. The client has to know why he's going to fall through his roof if it's not properly supported, or if the TP valve is not properly pumped out. So this morning we're not going to do the timber support in the roof. We decided to do that next week, as it's a very important section, and we're going to touch on it next week in a part 3. So please guys, tune in next week. Don't miss next week. It's the most important part is going to be next week. So today, we're going to just quickly recap. We followed the legislation of how all is encompassed by the national regulation of the SANS 10400 and the challenges experienced in the insurance geyser industry by the plumbers out there. We're going to look at the wall-hung geysers, drip trays or safety trays as called, TP valves and electrical bonding. And why are you going to say, but that's the electrician's job, but it's became our job. I don't know how the electrical bonding, I can't exactly tell you why, but it's part of our job now and we've got to do it, and there's a certain way of doing it properly. These are all critical safety issues plumbers get wrong. So what is a critical safety issue? So we must understand what a critical safety issue is. It is a safety critical or life critical system whose failure or malfunction may result in one or more of the following outcomes: death or serious injury to people, loss or severe damage to equipment or property, environmental harm. So look at that: death or serious injury to people, loss or severe damage to equipment or property. I don't know if you've seen this before. This was, as you can see, that's a Gauteng registration on the car. It happened in South Africa. Geyser went through the roof, took out the walls, and it took out 5 cars in the process. And there was an occupant in the house. Luckily, he was not killed. It happened 11 o'clock at night while he was in his lounge, where you see the fire extinguisher roll on the wall there. That was the bathroom, and that is where the geyser was. So yes, it can result in death and serious damage to property. So this is very important, guys. You don't want that claim, and you don't want your name linked to it. If you wrote out that COC and you wrote on the non-compliant TP valve pipe bent, not properly installed, and you wrote it as a non-compliance, I don't think that's going to cut it, because it's a critical safety issue. So these things that we are handling today are critical safety issues. Let's look at wall-hung geysers. They are quite contentious. 150 litre may be wall-hung if the manufacturer specifies wall hanging. Important, guys. Even on the 150 litre, check the serial plate, because there are geysers out there that the serial plate does not denote that you can wall hang this geyser. So check the serial plate. When you load that geyser in your bucket and you're not sure, check it before you take it out to be wall hung. Note on the serial plate, you'll see there's an X mark, and that's not for being wrong. That is being what it can be used for in a horizontal, vertical, wall or floor mount. You can see it's 150 liters at the top there. So this one can be done just about anything wall hanging as far as this is concerned. So there's another manufacturer out there, also exactly the same, also denoted with an X on it and clearly marked. So if the wall hanging has not got an X marking it, it is not wall hung compatible. So what about the 200 liters? And I know you're going to say, but yes, we can't hang them on the wall. But yes, we can. But once again, only if specified by the manufacturer and according to the manufacturer specification. We've recently at the Technical Advisory Committee got a resolution on the 200-liter wall hanging of a geyser. But you must note in the SANS 10254 and 10252 Part 1, it clearly states that it must be hung on a wall of structural integrity. Now, what does structural integrity mean? That means a wall which is 230 millimeters thick. So that is a double brick wall. And then, in effect, if we really look at it, we shouldn't be able to hang a geyser from the wall, especially in the coastal regions where we have cavity walls, because that is a 270 millimeter wall with a cavity in between. So, guys, be careful when you're hanging to walls, especially face brick walls as well, because those bricks have got cavities themselves. So if you put a roll bolt into it, you must make sure that it is absolutely gripping into that wall and that the wall is sound. It mustn't be a hollow brick wall with these big building blocks. So make sure it stays your responsibility to make sure that it's got structural integrity. And if you're not sure, you'll have to consult a competent person to check if it is structurally sound. So 200 liters, important, check your serial plate. This is a bit of a dull photo, guys. Sorry. Just check it out there. You'll see it's marked horizontal with an X. The vertical is not marked and wall is not marked, but the floor mount as well. So this 200 liter may not be vertically hung, may not be hung from the wall. So if it's like that and we arrive there and you put it on the wall, we're going to fail it. And don't lend your ears out to the guys out there and say, yes, but I spoke to this guy and that guy and he says we can hang it. No, sir, you cannot hang that on the wall because it doesn't say you can do that. So make sure what the manufacturer says. And if you're not sure, phone the manufacturer or phone the representative in the area and ask him if his geyser can be wall hung and if they can supply you with a letter. And most probably they'll say, but we cannot supply you because it's not marked as a wall hung geyser or something to that effect. But make sure. So here we have another manufacturer, everything marked wall hanging for the 200 liter. You can see it clearly marked out there. But obviously there are provisos when hanging it from the wall. So make sure if you do hang from the wall that you know what that manufacturer specifications are as well. Here we have a 200 liter which is non-compliant in the wall hanging process. Why? Because the manufacturer in this instance actually specifies that the geyser feet must be hung from the wall and then extra support given by brackets when hung in a horizontal position. So these brackets are not there to mount the geyser on, but to actually give extra support to the 200 liter geyser, which is wall hung from the wall on its own feet. You can note the left-hand arrow there, see how it is pulling away from the wall and buckling and bending under the weight of the geyser as the feet are mounted on as soon as you fill up the geyser. A clearer photo of that bending, which will make this non-compliant and dangerous, and they are both pulling away from the wall. So how must it be hung from the wall? A 200 liter geyser, if denoted on the serial plate to be wall hung with extra support in the horizontal plane, you will be putting the feet, as you can see the top arrow showing the feet mounted on the wall firstly, and then before filling up the geyser, you will mount your brackets underneath, and then you will fill up the geyser. And this is how it's supported. So make sure that the manufacturer specifications are followed each and every time when doing this in the 200 liter version. You can note that this bracket has been modified. It's obviously to give it extra support in that corner where it tends to bend away. And the rear brackets at the back, these are 200 liters in series. You can see it still has no gusset in there, but this gusset gives it a bit of extra strength as well. And these brackets are from the manufacturer itself. So obviously it comes from the manufacturer. It's designed for the manufacturer's needs. So not own brackets all designed by yourself. The feet of the geyser, when hanging it from the wall, denote it's got that big hole and then it's got that slot where the bolt has to go to slide in. This is obviously a fail. It will not pass because it can easily pull out from there You can see how it's been pulled in and buckling the feet as it's been pulled tight on the wall as well. They must be into that slot. And I know sometimes if you want to drill the hole, as you can see in the picture on the right-hand side, the drill slips off the brick and goes in between the bricks. So it's not exactly where it is, or the feet are slightly skew on the geyser. You can actually loosen those feet a slight bit and line them up nicely, take the tape measure and see that the holes are exactly where you want them to be, because you mark them out square and the feet are not quite square on the geyser, but they have a slight movement and you can adjust them so that you can get it into that slot. If you do not get it into that slot properly, at least use a big fender washer to try and just cover that hole as well. And don't use a thin fender washer, use something of a thick gauge metal. So wall hung geysers in a nutshell, guys. 150 liter can be wall hung horizontally without extra support, but it must be noted on the serial plate by the manufacturer. A 200 liter may be hung horizontally with support with the brackets according to the manufacturer specification, and must be noted on the serial plate to be wall hanging compatible. So what about vertical hanging? 200 liter geysers may also be vertically hung without extra support if specified by the manufacturer on the serial plate. Once again, you noted on the previous slide, we had the X marked in vertical plane as well. And that specific manufacturer denotes that the geyser can be hung in the vertical plane without extra support. So in a horizontal plane, it must have extra support. Vertically, it does not need support. So make sure, once again, what the manufacturer specification is. Then larger than 200 liters may not be wall hung, floor or roof only. But now what about the roof? This is a rational design, guys. It must be done by a competent person and an engineer. You cannot hang larger than a 200 liters. But believe me, we found them out there. A 300 liter wall hung geyser, and it's passed by a local authority and passed by the architect, said that he's happy and the owner is happy. But once again, look at the brackets. The feet are on the brackets, and the 300 liters up there in this new build, and it's just waiting for the right time to come off the wall. This is totally illegal and non-compliant. The installation will be rendered non-compliant once we get there, and it looks like this. It looks good, it looks very neat, but unfortunately it's not designed to be on the wall. So what to do with a 250 and a 300 liter geyser? Once again, check your serial plate. You can see on this 300 liter geyser it says mounting horizontally only, floor and roof. The only thing that it doesn't denote there is that a rational design is needed for the roof. So you cannot go and take this geyser and just pop it on the roof. The roof will have to be seriously strengthened and designed by an engineer. So your geyser is now mounted. It's installed as per manufacturer specification. You checked out all those serial plates. They're all correct, and you will have no problem with the auditor. Noting the height of the vacuum breakers, you checked out if it's got balanced pressure or not. You've explained to the owner as well what balanced pressure is. If you have to put that as a non-compliant on there, you say to him, sir, have you noted that when you shower and your wife uses the toilet and it flushes, that you have a drop into? Yes, I know that. I've noticed that. And you'll claim it very quickly. And you say to him, sir, that is balanced pressure. Because if you write, just write on your COC non-balanced pressure, it's not in an understandable language. So maybe you have to explain to him as well in some plain language what balanced pressure means. And then obviously you are going to do the pipe work. So ensure that there is a proper anti-siphoning loop. Please, we find this every day, and then the challenge would be out there. But the geyser has got insulation, and so this inlet pipe is just about, listen to that one, level with the inner tank of the geyser. But that does not cut it, guys. Anti-siphoning loop is part of your professional practice. You've got to do it properly. We need to get it neatly done. You'll have two photos here. The one on the left-hand side will pass because it's adequately raised above the geyser. The one on the right-hand side, that is done properly. So obviously it took another extra bend to get to that, but it is properly done. And if you have to go and change a tap washer, you won't have water siphoning back through the system. Or if a tap is broken off on the cold water side, you get the geyser draining and the element dry burning and everything that goes with it. So make sure you put up there a decent anti-siphoning loop. So ensure correct TP valve installation because of the picture that you got there. That picture must stick in your mind. Go and search it on the internet. You'll find it under Kempton Park and then a geyser exploding in Kempton Park. And you can put that on your phone and you can show that to your client. And once he's seen this photo, I'm quite sure he'll think differently about a critical safety issue. So what is a TP valve? The compliance issue around this is that I don't think everybody always understands what a TP valve is. You know, when you get to the client, he says, I have the overflow is dripping, the overflow is running, but that is an old term on old geysers. You need to explain to him, so, but you have two different kinds of valves there. You have a pressure reducing valve and you have a temperature pressure reducing valve or temperature pressure valve. So this part has already been done in previous presentations, but we're going to run through it again. The TP valve, temperature pressure reducing valve, opens up at 94 degrees centigrade, and hot steam and hot water comes out there once this thermostat has boiled this geyser. So once you've explained that to the client and say to him, that's why it has to be a copper pipe because the plastic will melt off, you'll start understanding what it is. So if you have a decent understanding of what the valve does, and you can explain it to the client, then he'll be absolutely happy to pay for the extra piping if he has to pay for it, upgrading the piping, whatever the case may be, if it is not up to standard, once he understands what this valve does. So TP valve compliance in SANS 10254, it says discharge from valves. This is an abbreviated version that I wrote down here. Be of a size not less than the size of the connection, meaning the outlet of the TP valve is 22 millimeters, so the pipe must be 22 millimeters coming out of there. But then it says maximum length of 4 meters, so it cannot be longer than 4 meters from your TP valve to the outlet side of the building. If the distance exceeds the 4 meters, you have to upsize over the whole length to a maximum of 9 meters. And upsizing means the next size up is 28 millimeters. And you have to have 3 or fewer bends, all bends maximum of 45 degrees or formed with a center line radius at least 5 times the diameter of the drain pipe. So yes, if you have a pipe bender there, guys, use the pipe bender because you're cutting down on one bend, which makes the pipe 600 millimeters longer actually, so that you don't lose that 600 millimeters on placing a 45-degree bend. So if you make a nice long radius bend with your pipe bender and you connect it in there, and remember, you can't do that with a class 0 pipe, is not bendable. You have to do class 1 or 2 to bend this pipe and put it into, and then you only have one bend most probably coming around the geyser at the back. So when upsizing, what is important? Note that your TP valve is 22 millimeters. How long must that 22 millimeters be before upsizing? A maximum of 100 millimeters. Not more than that, you will fail. It must be upsized. So what is the reason behind all this 28 millimeters and upsizing a bigger pipe? It goes about friction of the steam in the pipe to get it out. The more bends you have, the more friction there is, and the thinner the pipe is, how longer it is, the more friction there is, the longer it takes for the steam to get out there, and it starts shaking violently, etc. So just for information, this picture going around the geyser, the TP valve here, you can see it's got a 90-degree bend, not allowed. It is non-compliant and will fail. This is what it should look like. 2 45-degree bends coming around the geyser, taking it out. It makes a slow bend or a bend with a pipe bender out there. How must the TP valve pipe be installed? It says always incline downwards to the outlet. Drainage of both valve and pipe ensured. Blockage due to freezing or foreign objects is prevented. Remember, there's a lot of us that live in regions where we have freezing, so you'll have to have your insulation around it. And if you're putting the insulation up, you're not going to just write the R1 lagging. You're going to explain to the client we need rubber insulation, which has got a value of R1, and then you can understand. But just writing R1 lagging means nothing to the consumer out there. When flow occurs, be readily visible without risk of injury or damage due to steam or hot water. They are never joined together. As you can see here, your pipe is flowing outwards in a downward fashion. You've got the clips on there. We accepting those clips in certain instances, but make sure in this fashion the guy's got 2 clips around each other there, holding this pipe together. but preferably use a Holderbat. It must not, if I take that pipe and I want to shake it, because that's what's going to happen when it has to blow and it comes out of that clip, it's not going to cut it. So use proper Holderbats, not tight straps or pieces of wire, everything you pick up in the roof. When the flow occurs, be readily visible without risk of injury or damage due to the steam or hot water. You can see that the TP valve pipe has been extended down the wall here, and it's taken out of harm's way. If it was just left at the top and you walk underneath there, it can blow onto your head. Over there, you can get out of the way. If you see it blowing towards your feet, you'll most probably get out of the way quickly enough when it does blow. Back to that GEYSER TP valve directional, you'll note that some of the TP valves you can turn around. So in this instance, this TP valve will have to get a 45-degree bend and it be attached to the wall, taking it down to the bottom. Because that pipe can be pushed up, it's within arm's reach. You can turn it, that can go up, right up, and then it would not be sufficient. In this picture, you have a fixed TP valve. So once it's turned in, it's got its direction set. You cannot move it. So a directional TP valve, you will have to make sure that it's attached to the wall wherever it is, so that it doesn't turn around if you have a short piece of pipe onto it. Blockage due to freezing or foreign objects is prevented. TP valve support. TP valve pipe supported between trusses and properly tied down with the Holderbats, not tie straps or wire. Pre-plan your stock in your service vehicle and make sure it is stocked before each incident. Time saved in returning to redo or time saved in driving around to purchase Holderbats is profit in your pocket. Remember that profit in GEYSER replacement is in the time factor, nothing else. You will not make money if you have to come back to support a TP valve pipe. So pressure reducing valves, SANS 10254, notwithstanding the provisions, an isolating valve shall not be provided between any pressure reducing valve and a water heater. If such a pressure reducing valve incorporates an expansion relief device or vacuum relief device intended to protect such water heater. So I know the client says, but next time I want the geyser burst, I want to close off the water so that we at least have water in the house. No, so you cannot do that, but there is a way to do that. So this will be non-compliant as you have a shut-off device being a stopcock. This will also fail. So how do you rectify this? The only way to rectify it is by placing a relief valve at the geyser, and you'll see there's a shut-off cock at the bottom arrow and the relief valve at the top. And that way you can put in a shut-off device, the only way you can do it. The other way that you would be doing this is if your pressure reducing valve is further than 10 meters away from the geyser. Denote exactly where you won't find that in the SANS standard, but you'll find it in the manufacturer specifications. Manufacturer specifications of valves will show that a 400 kPa valve or 600 kPa valve must be not further than 10 meters, otherwise an extra relief valve must be installed. So note on that distance from your geyser. What does SANS 10254 say about drip trays? When the storage water heater, complete with its ancillary components, is installed in a manner and position where any leakage from storage water heater and its ancillary components can cause damage to the property in any manner, it shall be furnished with a drip tray that complies with SANS 1848, and the size of the drip tray shall be such that it will cover the total area of the heater and the associated water appetances. So once again, make sure that the tray is the right size. Make sure that everything is above the tray. Don't install the geyser with a drain cock overhanging the tray or a vacuum breaker 400 millimeters away on the outside. Everything, all the appetances, as they say there, should be over the drip tray. It must not be buckled or bent, no cuts, outlet not bent up, properly supported. If rib, place blocks under the feet to prevent the cutting into the tray, outlet properly supported. The question, 40 or 50 millimeter part, both are accepted, but no 90-degree bends. Tray here buckled and bent. If that geyser overflows, it's going to overflow on the side and cause damage to the property. Once again, critical safety issue, damage to property. Here we have the tray is an old tray being replaced, and the previous feet was already cutting into the tray and it will leak. So just place a block underneath the feet there if the tray is still to be reused when it's a rib tray out there. That will prevent the geyser feet cutting into the roof. So the drain pipe of the safety tray going out, note an extra piece of wood placed in there and a Holderbat holding it down. Not a piece of wire or cable tie, a proper decent Holderbat holding it down. No 90-degree bends. Use 45-degree bends only. Left-hand side will fail, right-hand side will pass on this one. SANS 10254, the installation, maintenance, replacement and repair of fixed electric storage water systems. It says, the electrical wiring system shall comply with SANS 10142 and the water heater shall be connected to the electrical supply in an approved manner. So yes, your electrician will do the electrical connection or the disconnection. This is not a plumber's work, but the bonding, here it says in a normative references, remember we spoke about normative references, SANS 10142 is a normative reference in SANS 10254, and it says where the hot water system includes electric components and the water pipes are of conducting material, conducting being copper, metal, hot and cold water systems shall be bonded together and also be bonded to the earth continuity system. So let's see, that is a bonding strap with a galvanized bolt. That will fail. Why? Because the bolt is rusting. It's giving galvanic reaction to the copper. So you have to use a brass bolt. You cannot solder it onto the pipe. It will not give the right conductivity, first of all, because you cannot measure the conductivity, and it will eat away at the pipe. Not turn the wire around the pipe, also soldering it to the pipe, as the solder flux will be eating away at the pipe, pitting the pipe, and will not cut, once again, not proper conductivity. So how do we do it? You put a bonding strap around the pipe, tightly fitted with a brass bolt, and once tightened up there, you must not be able to turn this bonding strap. It must be on a clean pipe as well, not an old corroded pipe that you do not have conductivity. Clean the pipe and do it properly. The earth wire coming out from the earth must have a lug on the end, not the wire turned around the brass bolt, a proper lug. So this is a typical installation. You'll have as you can see, the drain cock at the bottom, the left-hand lug coming from your earth pin to the cold water pipe and the bonding strap with a brass bolt, and then the top, if that would be the hot and cold water pipe, a brass or the copper bonding strap between the two, also with brass bolts attached, and your earth wire running to it. The earth wire can be 2.5 millimeters of thickness, and denote not a yellow or other color, but use the right correct color for earthing. It's the yellow with the green line in it, so you can't use a red or black wire out there. Use the correct one. So that is basically your bonding kit that you'll need for a geyser. You'll need your bonding strap, at least 4 lugs per geyser and 3 bolts. That will cut it. And then obviously get yourself a crimping tool like that, just to crimp the lugs onto it, and that will make your life easier. Put it in as a bonding kit there, and you know that is your outlay for each geyser. You can go and calculate and see what it costs, and you know exactly what a bonding kit will consist of. So it's bonding strap, brass bolts, 2.5 earth coat house wire, 2.5 millimeter lugs. Note the hole size when you purchase it. Sometimes they are too small and you can't get the bolts through. The guys start drilling the holes and they're breaking the lug, and obviously a crimping tool. How to bond? From the earth pin on the geyser to the cold pipe with a bonding strap with 2.5 millimeter earth wire. From the bonding strap on cold pipe, 1 2.5 earth wire to the interconnection between the hot and the cold piping bonding strap. So next week, part 3, timber support of the geyser. But now that's the plumber's predicament. The insurance company does not pay for this extra support, nor does the consumer want to pay, guys, but it remains a critical safety issue. Remember the picture, always remember that picture. Damage to property, it can cause death. You have to explain that. And remember, once again, you have signed up with a service level agreement with the insurance company that you can do these geyser replacements within the standard. So you'll have to do the negotiation, turn up those soft skills, and see if you can afford to do the geyser for that company. But what I can tell you now is you cannot afford to go back to rectify that geyser, because then you've lost, on each and every case you go back, you've lost your profit. So guys, thank you very much for listening. I stole 2 minutes of your time. If there are any questions, please pop them in and see if I can answer them. Thank you very much.
All right, Marius, while you do have quite a few questions. In fact, way too many for us to be able to get through in the session. So what I'll do, guys, is I'll go ahead, I'll take these down and I will send them through to Marius to answer via email, because unfortunately there is just way too many for us to get through this morning. But now, guys, for now, I just want to remind you guys that we are busy, or the PRB is busy switching over to the new system. This new system will be live on Monday. And to actually access it, guys, we've kept it the exact same. You just go through the PRB website and you just click on the log COC, and that will take you into the actual system itself. We will be sending out further communications as well, guys, but just some of the headliner functions of it. You can now purchase COCs from the app, log COCs from the system, and everything else as well. So, guys, just be aware that we are starting that, or that system is going live on Monday, right? And more communication will follow with regards to that. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us this morning. Thank you, Marius, for taking the time out to present. And enjoy the rest of your week and weekend, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rob.